It's called the Agricultural Heritage Museum, and you'll find it on the campus of SDSU. You can spend hours wandering from one exhibit to the next, just as Chad Anderson did.
Stepping back into history can give us a better appreciation of modern conveniences and what you could call the easy living of today. But it's important that we not forget those who came before us and how they lived. In Brookings, there's a place to do just that. The Ag Heritage Museum is dedicated to preserving the heritage of pioneer life on the prairie.
The Agricultural Heritage Museum has its roots go back as far as 1881. We were a museum of the Department of Zoology here at the college, starting at that point. And it stayed a museum in various departments of the university up through about 1967, when Hilton Briggs, who was president of the university, established a museum that would be the Agricultural Heritage Museum.
10 years later, the museum found a permanent home on the SDSU campus.
The stock judging pavilion was the original animal science building on campus. The main area where we have our steam engine was the show arena, where the students came in to show the livestock and learn how to do the livestock showing. They held Little Eye in this building.
Nowadays, the stock judging pavilion is home to some unique South Dakota items.
Well, this is a 1915 farm horse tractor, and this is what started our South Dakota made exhibit. The company that made these was in Hartford, South Dakota. They had their own foundry. They were recycling iron down there, buying up scrap in 1915, so they were a little ahead of their time. They made about 250 from what we can tell. The records we did get, though, made it possible to restore this tractor. Prior to these pictures, there was only 2 line drawings that existed of all the tractors that were made. So with the information we got from the photographs, we were able to do a fairly accurate restoration of this tractor. This is a Dakota Tractor. It was made in DeSmet. It's 1913. We did find the grandson of the man that made this tractor, and he sent us 9 photographs. One of the photos shows 2 tractors on a railroad car on the way to Huron to the state fair. And we're about 99% sure that this is one of those 2 tractors because of a mistake that was made on it that does show in the photograph. This exhibit here is Eckern Brother out of Flanders, South Dakota, which today is still in business as a plumbing and heating company. They had their own foundry down there, and these are products they made, or a sample of them. One of their initial ones was this grease gun here that's still in the packing crate. And hundreds of those, or thousands, were sold to the military in World War I for greasing equipment and machinery.
The exceptional craftsmanship on display within the South Dakota Made exhibit at the museum is not limited to iron fabrications.
This case is the Overby brothers from Millette, South Dakota. And what we have here at the front was a mousetrap that was built just prior to warfarin, the rat poison coming out. And it was a time when the government was getting real particular about foreign matter in stored grain. So they came up with this idea for a self-resetting mousetrap. The way it works is a mouse goes inside the screen trap there, a door shuts behind it, opens a separate hole into another tunnel, and it forces it up into this can, and the can had antifreeze in it. And the reason for antifreeze is that the animals won't rot in it. It preserves them. This is our newest exhibit that just opened. It's on seed sacks and the uses that women made from the sacks that were designed as material. All the sacks in this exhibit are South Dakota companies. And a number of them have more than one sack up because there were so many varieties. Companies made patterns, they had competitions. Seed companies actually printed bags that had dolls and such on that you could cut out and stuff and sew up for your kids.
Another display case in the museum houses a product that is a household name.
This is the Briggs and Stratton exhibit. We had fun putting this one together because a lot of people didn't realize that Stephen Briggs went to SDSU, was born and went to high school in Watertown, South Dakota. His original work here at SDSU was a 6-cylinder, 2-cycle engine. that he was paired up with Harold Stratton and had intents of building cars using this engine. Well, after about 3 failures because of the cost of production on the engine, they finally hit on an electrical switch in about 1910 that got the present-day Briggs and Stratton company going. In about 1915 or so, they acquired the rights to the Smith's motor wheel, which was a small single-cylinder gas engine that was bolted to the side of a bicycle. Briggs bought it from Smith, started to market the motor wheel, but then realized there was more of a demand for the small gas engine as a power unit. So he redesigned it and started selling to lawnmowers and feed mills and such small items like that. It was about a 1.5 horse engine. In 1917 or 18, he actually designed his first gas engine that was totally created in the Briggs and Stratton company and moved into where they are today, which is a major manufacturer of gas engines, car electrical components, keys, switches, castings, and such.
Surviving the challenges and demands of life on the open prairie fueled the innovators' drive.
Rural people tended to be very inventive because they needed things that they either weren't in the market area or they couldn't immediately get what they needed. So inventions become necessities.
Well, I think what it shows is the ingenuity that South Dakota people had to have to survive out here.
In order for Bill and his crew of volunteers to fully restore these machines of yesteryear, they first had to do their homework.
Well, the biggest step that we take in restoration is the research and trying to figure out what it was originally and how it was done. Most of the stuff that we've restored has been farm equipment, and farmers are notorious for modifying things to make it work better and to work for them and to keep working. So trying to come up with information on a lot of these things like South Dakota made tractors where there was very little to begin with is tough. And then taking what you have and interpreting that into what you're looking at and being careful not to make a mistake that you can't correct. You want to spend more time researching than you do working on it.
The labor-intensive process of restoring these farming relics is essential for future generations to truly appreciate what shaped the South Dakota landscape.
It's important to have a museum that talks about agricultural and rural history simply because we're losing so much of it. The majority of Americans are no longer involved in agriculture, so most people have no connection to the land, no connection to where their food comes from. So it is important that there are museums around that talk about agriculture and rural history and preserve that knowledge.
The museum is open year-round. If you'd like more information, simply stop by our website. Well, that's it for this edition of Dakota Life.